I apologize if I'm telling you anything you don't already know, but I want to respond to Attorney Jeffrey Nodd's letter. I'm here with my contractor, Jason Pierson, who's going to correct me if I say anything wrongly. But what we're talking about is the living room wall and the windows that were installed and the wall that was rebuilt. And basically, there's only two ways to install windows. One is known in some circles as retrofit, and that is when the window is the exact same size as the previous window and it goes straight in and it has a frame around it so it covers any broken stucco. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
And the other would be, I think it's called new construction. And that's when you cut open the wall to make it the size of the new window. And then that would go in. And then you'd frame it and everything like that.
Provide a header, yes. For the window, yes.
So those are the two basic ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, in 2002, Jeffrey Nodd says that his clients put new windows in the living room wall. Not this wall, this is just an example wall. Well, when we tried to straighten the windows and we opened up the wall, we actually found, recognize this?
Yes, I do. That came off of the wall where the windows, where we tried to fix the windows.
Yeah, the entire wall was made of this plywood, which is dated. And what's the date on that?
February 2002.
So that's when it was manufactured. So the wall had to be constructed after February 2002. Careful, there's nails still in here from there. Is that flashing? Is that called flashing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so they're saying that all they did was put the windows in an existing wall that had been built before they owned the house. And they owned the house from 1999 onwards. But that plywood was inside the wall. The entire wall was made of plywood that was manufactured after February 2002. Now, is it possible, seriously, in any conceivable way, that if I gave you an unlimited amount of money, that you could get sheets of plywood which are 8 feet by 4 feet?
That's correct.
Could you slip them into an existing wall between the stucco and the drywall without the homeowner, me knowing? Is that possible?
Impossible. Impossible.
Could David Copperfield do it?
No.
David Blaine?
No.
Okay. Would it be easier to levitate?
Probably.
So it's really, really hard. And let me tell you, and again, this is layman, that's why I've got an expert here with me. What probably had to have been done in this sequence of events is that wall had to be opened up, the existing plywood had to have been removed, because this is plywood we're talking about from the floor to the ceiling. And we're not getting into the construction of the wall, the lack of the footing and the lack of the header. I'm not going to get there. But so you'd have to expose the framing and then reattach the plywood, correct?
Correct.
And then after you did that, would you do the drywall or the stucco first? Which would you do? Just personal preference?
Stucco.
Okay, so you do the stucco first, which is what we're doing here. So what you're doing first is you're putting on a building paper, and stop me if I get it wrong, the building paper is attached to the plywood, which is underneath here. Then over that goes, I call it mesh. What would you call that?
Stucco mesh.
Okay, stucco mesh. Because if you don't have this on, can you put stucco on here?
No.
What will happen?
It would just fall to the ground.
Okay, so you need to put plywood on, the paper, the stucco mesh, and then mix up the stucco. Now, if you're doing a 36-foot wall, like we had to remove, and you had a crew of 3 or 4 people, couldn't have more than that really to work on that size. How long would it take you to open up that wall and then redo all the plywood, the paper, the mesh, mix the stucco, put it in, and do it? How quick could you do that?
If it was done correctly, it would probably take close to a month, because there are 3 separate steps of stucco. The first is called the scratch, the second is called the brown, and then the final is the what we call the finish or the color coat. And there are curing times between those coats, and with the amount of time that it would take to open that wall, frame it, put the windows in, plywood, put the layers of building paper on, put the wire on, and do those 3 layer processes of the stucco would take close to a month.
Could you do that to a wall here at the house with Krista and I living here without us knowing?
No, impossible.
Okay, and then you'd have to go inside and do the drywall.
Correct.
Then you have to mud the drywall, wait for that to dry, and then paint the inside and maybe the stucco if it wasn't already a certain color.
Correct.
Well, there you go. That's what's happening. We've been waiting on this because all of this is step by step. Jason's not rushing. He's doing it according to code. And to say that the wall was done in 2002 but that plywood was not put into that wall in 2002, it just appeared, is...
There's no logical explanation for that that argument. I mean, it's impossible. The work had to have been done after February of 2002.
And that meant the whole wall.
Correct.
You, and who removed that wall?
I did, and I was the one that, that whole entire wall had February of 2002 plywood on it. Not just a small section, the whole 36 foot by 8 foot tall wall had 2002 plywood on it.
There you go. I can't add any more. The expert speaks. Thank you so much, Jason.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank
Back
you.
to work.